Thank you for the wonderful opportunity. Can I do a screen share?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me know if you are able to see the screen.
Yes, we are.
Okay, perfect. So I'll begin by first thanking all of you and inviting me for this opportunity. I do want to talk about a story, and I do want to talk about my journey and how the story has shaped me and helped me in my journey. So this is a story which is relevant to each one of us. And I'm pretty sure whether you have heard it or not heard it, you would probably relate to it. This is a story of Richard Bach called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Just a raise of hands, how many of you have heard of this story or read the story? Osama, I can't see. Can you tell me if there are any raises?
Yes. So there are a couple of raises that we have. We have Jay, we have Pranay, who have raised their hand, and I think they know the story.
Perfect. So for those of you who've read it, Pranay, let me tell you, you'll still find something new. Each time, at least my experience, I have read this, I found something new, something relatable, and something even more to learn from. And for those of you who've not, let me recite this for you. And at the end of the story, I'm going to ask you a question. And I'm also going to relate my personal experience and my journey, my career, and how I relate to the story. So this is about a bird, a seagull called Jonathan. And I'm not sure how many of you know the traits of a seagull. So seagulls are usually, they thrive in cities. You see them on the shores. They're expert thieves and opportunistic feeders. They fly in flocks. Food is most important to them. And you can see them almost anywhere, but near the shore. But Jonathan was different. And why he was different? Because flying was his passion. Well, at the end, I'm revealing the question I'm going to ask, whether he was born different or whether he was perceived different. But Jonathan was different. Like many of us, I mean, I was initially one of them. He had disappointed parents. You've seen the movie Three Idiots, because one is supposed to making a living after all. Seagulls are supposed to fetch food, not be seen around flying. But Jonathan, he wanted to be a good son. He wanted to make his parents happy. So he started to stay on the shore and live like ordinary seagulls. A few days he tried to live on the shore. He tried to be a good boy. He lived like an ordinary seagull. But his heart said fly. He wanted to fly. He started practicing. Little by little, he started practicing again. As he was practicing, one day, he crashed. And as he crashed, he lay in the water. And the mind started to say something. And what the mind was saying was, you're only a seagull. You don't have the capability. Your wings are not of a falcon, that you can fly high. Your parents are actually right. And you're an ordinary seagull. You should just go back home and live an ordinary life. So that was the thought that was going on in his mind. And he decided to go back. He said, I'll return to the flock. I'll go back and be an ordinary seagull, and I don't want to die like this. As he was returning to the flock, he started to observe some falcons fly. And as he was observing the falcons fly, he noticed that the wings of the falcons are slightly curved in. So he said, let me see if I can curve my wing inwards and fly. He tried that, and guess what? He learns to dive in. He goes at a very crashing speed of 100 kilometers per hour to 120, 140, and his speed kept accelerating. As he was just about to go down, he figured how to control his wings and he came back up. So he had figured this was his first dive and he had learned to dive. And oh boy, he was enjoying. Now, there came a time as he was practicing more and more dives that, of course, he didn't decide to go back to the flock and he started to practice. And on the other end, he saw a bunch of birds who were approaching towards him. And it was a near accident. Well, it was not an accident, but he very closely encountered them and just moved back up. So as that happened, he got called by the leader of the seagulls. And Jonathan was hoping that he will get recognized for flying so high. Council will be curious to know how he had learned these techniques, how he was flying so high, and how he had learned to dive deep, etc. But the meeting turned out to be the exact opposite. Like many of you in our corporate career forums, you think of a meeting, but it turned out to be completely different. The leader of the seagull told him, "You're careless. You should have only flew to fetch food and not for passion. You're putting others in danger." But Jonathan disagrees and says, "Seagulls can fly. You have no idea how high seagulls can go. Let's join together and discover how far we can all go. All seagulls, you all should join me." But of course, no one cared to hear him. And he was instead boycotted from the community. He had now to live alone and he cannot be with his family, but he takes it all in his stride. He starts practicing and practicing even more and more and more than before. One day, as Jonathan's life had become about flying and practicing, he was followed by two beautiful seagulls. He had never seen something like that before. He'd never seen seagulls so beautiful. And more so, they were following him. He started to pace up his fly, and they started matching his pace. He was in complete awe of seeing seagulls who could fly as he was. So Jonathan was surprised and asked, "Who are you?" And they replied, "We are your brothers. We are here to take you back home. You have learned what you needed to learn in this lifetime, and now you need to move ahead. It's time to enjoy heaven." As he reached heaven, he realized his body was feeling different and he was flying much higher, much lighter, and he was really enjoying the glides that he was seeing in heaven. There he met an instructor named Sullivan. So Jonathan asked him, "Where am I and why am I here?" Sullivan said, "You're 1 in 1,000. Most seagulls don't reach here. They're stuck in their daily routines. They're stuck in trying to find food. But you are different. Because you've learned so much in one lifetime, you have arrived here." Jonathan was really enjoying flying and was with so many others like him. And then he met another bird named Chiang. Chiang was a very old bird, and Jonathan asked him, "What is heaven like? What is this heaven? What is heaven?" Chiang said, and this is pretty interesting, "Heaven is not a place. It's a feeling inside you. Those who are trying to strive for perfection, they can be anywhere." Jonathan was truly intrigued by the idea of being anywhere and anytime. So he said to Chiang, "I want to learn how to be anywhere and at any time." And I asked, "How do I get to anywhere I want? Would you be my teacher?" And Chiang agreed. And there they started their flying lessons. So Chiang's lesson number 1 was he just realize that you're already there. When you say, I want to be anywhere, anytime, just realize that you're already there. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, you're already an infinite being. Jonathan kept thinking about this, kept thinking, I'm already an infinite being. What does that really mean? So one day he realized what that meant. He instantaneously found himself in a different place along with Chiang. And in that moment, Jonathan realized that I have to go back to the sea, where I came from, and I have to start learning teaching. Chiang had told him when they both moved to another place, Chiang had told him, understand love. And as he said, understand love, Chiang disappeared. And Jonathan realized it was a lesson. It was a lesson. And this voice was a voice from within. Chiang was no mentor, no teacher, but it was a voice from within. And it was teaching me to understand love. So he now wants to help other people move ahead in their journeys. He came back to Earth and started teaching other seagulls. He started teaching Fletcher, who was boycott just like him. Now, as Fletcher started teaching other seagulls, Fletcher and Jonathan used to fly, and other seagulls got inspired and they joined, and more seagulls started to join the flying lessons. So that was basically to the point that Chiang was making was understand love. Fletcher felt the same love that Jonathan wanted Fletcher to feel in sharing and teaching others. So this is the story, and the story doesn't end. Actually, the story continues because there are more and more seagulls who learn to fly, and they pass on their message and they make others learn, etc., and reach that state of perfection. So I'm pretty sure the story, as I say, a lot of you can relate to it. A lot of you can relate to instances where either you failed or you learned or you practiced and you wanted to give up, or your parents said, do this, do that, but your heart was somewhere else, and the heart and mind play. I'm sure we have felt up. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to stop the screen share for a minute and going to ask questions. How many of you can relate to this story? Are there any moments where you can relate to, what are your takeaways from the story?
Right. And if anyone has anything to say, you can please raise your hand and I'll unmute you virtually.
So let me first ask, I hope the story was clear. I'm happy to talk about any parts of the story that wasn't clear.
Right. So we have one response, Jyotsna, where Gautam says he realized what he learned from the story was to realize to believe in himself. So the story was about belief. That's one response that we have got.
Wonderful.
Great. Anyone else?
Who was that response from? Rajat?
It was from Gautam.
Gautam. Right. Wonderful.
And we have one more response from Kanchan. He says self-confidence and love for others.
Lovely.
And we have one more person raising his hand. I'll just unmute you, Gaurav. Just a second here. Yes, Gaurav, go ahead.
The thing I have learned from this story, sometimes अपनी life में हम इतना busy हो जाते हैं कि हम अपनी capabilities और अपनी strengths को ही भूल जाते हैं. तो हमें मतलब उसके बारे में कुछ पता ही नहीं होता और हमें ये नहीं पता होता हम जिंदगी में कितना कुछ अचीव कर सकते हैं and we can achieve beyond our imagination. मतलब इतना कुछ हम अचीव कर सकते हैं. So that's मतलब ये चीज है इसमें.
Absolutely, Gaurav. Absolutely.
Great. And we have
We have,
four more response. Yeah, I'll just share them with you. So we have one response from Prabhudev. He says, don't get stuck in routines, try for new things. It's about trying for new things. Then Trupti, she shares that be a seagull of your life. And then there is one more response that we have got from Rajat. He says it's about confidence, love others, and society. And one more response, realize that heaven is not a place but a feeling inside us.
Mhm.
Uh, we are getting a lot of response. Never give up unless you lose your confidence in yourself. So these are a couple of responses that we have got, Jyotsna.
and self-confidence is very important. So the learning is there's no limit. You just have to dare. Wonderful. I mean, I'm just amazed at how many responses and how many different learnings, and each one of you had a different aha moment. So not only that, I mean, oh wow, there are more responses. Let's keep going. Always be limitless. These messages, I don't know, how do I get to this through the chat?
Right. I can read them out for you if you want.
Yeah.
Right. So we have the last message from Sonal. Don't listen to your mind. You are having infinite potential. You are already there. But then we have Venkata Lakshmi, who shares learn and share your learnings. That's one. We have Harsha, who says my path is my destiny. Won't listen to anyone. So Divek, he says always be limitless with the company of infinite supreme power. Then Apurva Modi, she says, challenges the comfort zone. Sachin, he says we have to introspect ourselves. And then Anand, he says, if one can achieve anything worthwhile, one should not forget passing on the baton. So that's, a lot of responses.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, this is a group of learners. I can tell you, you're very lucky to have a group who's already had so many takeaways. So bang on. I mean, each one of us has a takeaway. So now I'm going to pause and ask something relatable, something that you can relate to. If there was a moment in your career, if there was a moment in your life, when now that you've read the story and learned so many responses, what is that one incident in your life that you can share? Anyone?
Right. We can have raise of hand on this, virtual raise of hand, and then I'll unmute you. Divek, I'll just unmute you. Go ahead, Divek.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Divek. Go ahead.
I want to share one personal learning. It's never be something in end. I was in my business earlier to that. I was in job. I worked in hotels. I was a hotel operation manager. In 2017, like I have to leave the job and I look after my family. I have old parents and so many responsibility as I'm only one in my family. So I belong to a small town, and then I start with the restaurant, and I don't know anything about the. I'm a good foodie, but I don't know how to make the good authentic dishes. And once that is business, 100% totally survive on the labor class people and the chef. You can't hire a professional chef for a small business. Then the thing happened. I made the business. I made everything, and then I lost my father, and it was the thing in my life that break me. And then I step ahead and see there now I have the responsibility, and then I restart my career. That's
Wow,
why.
very inspiring story, Divek. Sorry to hear about this, but it's the resilience. I mean, the resilience with which you kept moving on and kept going on. It's hats off to you. So that's an amazing thing. And I think and Divek, you have exhibited what we just learned. Like share with others, share your learning with others. And that's what I think for the group. You don't know anything about this business. It's okay. You don't know anything about this new territory that you have to work on. It's okay. You have responsibilities. You learn from it. You be resilient and carry on. So amazing takeaways. Thank you, Divek, for sharing something that's so personal to you as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Anyone else can raise their hand? There is one response that we got from the chat, right? I'll just read them for you. So it is from, just a second. It is from Mohan. So he says that I always wanted to be a trainer, and while I was working with Lenskart, there was an opportunity to become a sales trainer. I dared to apply for the same since was new there, so little scared, and also everyone was making assumption that someone else would get promoted instead of him. I was nowhere in their list. However, I still didn't give up and gave my best. And today I am a sales trainer. It was difficult, but not impossible.
Wow. Wonderful, Mohan. Wonderful. I think we're going to invite you to the next training we have on our sales meeting for sure.
Right. Thank you, Mohan. Anyone else? Go ahead, guys. So far, only 2 people, I think, who would like to share their personal stories. So if we can, yeah. No, we have one more, Kanchan. Kanchan, if we can give him a chance.
Before Kanchan starts, I do want to say one thing about Mohan. There have been many times in our lives when we are in those crossroads, when we have to make a decision. Can I do this? Can I not do this? And Mohan, I have something very, very personal and relatable, which I'll share with you in some time. As we progress in your career, there are more and more of those moments where you would be challenged with, I can or I cannot, because the challenges increases and your personal demands are also increased at the same time. Your family requirements increase, your responsibility starts increasing as you grow in your career and as you progress, both personally. So I'll talk about that story, but I'll pause and let Kanchan go.
Yes. Kanchan, I've unmuted you, and then we have Nitesh also would like to share. Kanchan, go ahead.
So good afternoon, everyone. I just want to relate the story with my story. I have graduated myself in anthropology, and in the year 1999. And because my dream was to become a professor, specifically into education, but at that time there was a pressure from my from the other side, my present wife's family, that I have to get into marriage, otherwise it will be very late for her. So there was a force, and although it was against my decision, but I have taken a pledge that okay, whatever may be the thing, if I have to take, I have to get into that target of getting her married. I need to shift my roles. So I got into technical things. So I become at that time it was a network security thing. I took up that challenge, and I got into the uh, network security part of it in 2000. Although I am coming from an anthropology background, and I was not believing that whether I will become anytime I'll become a technical person, because there were so many MTechs, people from different electronic backgrounds. They are into there. How can I compete with them? And I took up just 6 months course. At that point of time, I don't know, I have cracked an interview within, after completion of 1 month of course, in 7 days, I have cracked an interview. I never believed. And I got a job at that point of time of 15,000, while people were getting 2,000, 2,500 while after doing PhD. While doing PhD, I have got a job of 15,000. I didn't believe. And trust me, once I got into that job and I got married also, because that was the target at that point of time. Immediately, my boss has told me that you have to do so many certifications and you have to move abroad. I was not in that place to grab again. But I thought if that is the opportunity, if I have to lead a good life, why can't I take that opportunity? Trust me, in another 1 year, I've completed 7 certifications, starting from ethical hacking to CCNA. Those are the all technical certification. And within 1 year, I flew abroad with my family. There, I had children, I had kids, but the route was important. I was relating to this story. My route was always pulling me over here. The why can't I? Because my passion was into proficiency. So I want to get into the training part of it, whatever I learned from here, and I wanted to stick to my passion. I came back over here. I become a trainer in IBM, and I was teaching security over there, network security. And to those guys who are already 40, 50 years experienced guys, and they were taking. Then all of a sudden, another break came after 5 years, and somebody was telling me, why don't you join sales? And cybersecurity sales is one of the sales where people don't come over here. Again, there was a tweak, there was a twist over there, and this time my wife said that you need to grow up. You have always done these things in your life. Why don't you take this challenge? I took up the challenge again. I passed the interview, and I have been in 2010. I became the regional director for Semantic, and the story went by this. I never thought I will ever do a sales of 10 million USD, and I cracked last year the same thing in my life. So only one thing I can say after this story, ma'am, you said that one thing is, of course, never give up, confidence and everything, but there are certain skills, there are certain things which are there in yourself. As you said, heaven is nowhere. Heaven is only the feeling. Yes, it's true. You have to bring up that heaven, a peace, your skills, your emotions. You have to control. You have to distract yourself of so many things. At one point of time, I'm sure you can get your goal, whatever may be. So I have taken certain baby steps also in order to reach to my goal. And I can see always there is a ladder up if you are setting up your goal. And that's all about our life story. Just what I wanted to share with everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kanchan, because I'll share something very similar. I mean, we're all pushed in situations where heart is somewhere, mind is somewhere, and we have to make decisions and we move along. So the good part is what you would have learned in this process. While you pushed yourself to do different things, there would be so many learnings, and we look at learnings from a professional perspective, but personally also you would have learned a lot. Personally also you would have learned how to manage your time better, how to organize yourself better, how to stay resilient, so many other things. So never shy away from pushing yourself, for sure. Thank you, Kanchan.
Great. We have one more.
Nitish.
Yeah. So Nitish, yeah, I've unmuted you. If you can go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I have a very similar story to state, but this is what I've learned in my career. The first step is always very, very difficult. When you're climbing a mountain, I think you won half the battle when you climb the first step. So I've done things out of the box, and uh, I always feel, if I challenge myself, that's the best way to develop yourself. You keep challenging yourself, keep learning, and that's what I'm doing yet. So I'll give you a small thing. I'll share a small thing with you all. I passed out of college, and then I got married, and I had my first daughter when I was 30. But I always wanted to be a part of the National Institute of Fashion Technology. So at the age of 30, I kind of gave an entrance, the entrance to get in there, and then I pursued what I wanted to do, and I did the course. Uh, so I feel, we all have blinders and probably a lot of responsibilities that, pull us back. But I have always realized that, if you want to move and evolve, that is the best way to go forward is take the first step. And, for anything, it may be anything. Like I have switched jobs. I have started a couple of my own startups, and uh, today I'm working in a particular organization which is totally different. You know, from textiles to FMCG to staffing, IT staffing. So I've done it all, and I have always grown from I've always climbed that next step uh, when I change gears, or when I change lanes. So I think that is very, very important. Don't restrict yourself, and go for it. That's all I want to say.
Absolutely, Nitesh. I mean, thank you for sharing this with everybody else in the group. Um, as Nitesh mentioned, we all push ourselves. I had a realization. I realized this very fact, this group is actually a group of seagulls, because you're all here. The fact that you're here is because you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to do something different, you want to, be somewhere. So I'm really inspired by, speaking at this group. So wonderful, Nitesh, for your journey. And I'm pretty sure, do keep sharing with others, and do keep sharing with, your subordinates, etc. as well.
Do we
Any,
have time for
yeah.
one more? We have Alex who raised his hand. I think we can take the last one. Alex, please go ahead.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Happy learning from all these stories. So I also have a story. So I'm an engineer by profession. So normally when you become an engineer, so you feel that, okay, you would do certain different things. You would make some bridges, you would do something, you invent something, all those kind of things. So I started my career in what you call quality, then services, and then projects. And 5 years I was doing all this, so going here and there. But it was not, I'm an electrical engineer, so which actually puts a lot of electronics also into that. But one fine day I lost my job. So because the company was not doing anything, and there was some politics involved. Politics means geopolitical things involved, and I lost my job. So when I lost my job, I was having some money with me, so I started my own business, which was again similar to something like a restaurant. But I was not knowing anything about, so I relied on some people, lost all my money, and again I have to start afresh. And then I got the opportunity to work into electrical, and people gave me not only electrical but to do with sales, and which was never my cup of tea. But I tried and grown in that organization, and I came to second organization. But what happened in that organization, which still I'm working with, that I used to achieve one goal, and once I achieved, then the company used to give me the new task, so which was a smaller task than what I have already achieved. So anything new coming in, so I was getting in. So what I'm trying to tell you is that never. So today also I feel that I'm a great salesman, though I'm an engineer, and couple of marketing educations, what you call management educations, I have added on doing my job only. But what I feel is that try something new. So even if you have to start afresh, even if you have to start something which is smaller, because most of the times what happens is when we grow, so we feel that, okay, I handle this much of turnover, this many million euro turnover I'm handling, these many people working with me. But when you are given again a new task, which you have to start from fresh, wherein no millions, you have to add millions to that, and you have to add build team. So that is what I feel that one should not be afraid of. And second is that when you are a builder, so not only actually you would gain something in your professional career, but in your personal also. And for me, sales has been a great learning, which has not only taught me how to grow, how to go up, how to have a horizontal shift also, and how to deal with people, how to bring in empathy in you. So some people say as you grow, so you need to be differentiating, you need to keep difference from the people. But I feel that when you are with the people, your best comes out. So that is what I have learned, and the COVID has taught much more than that, wherein we could, with the help of the people, we could serve, and we could get a lot of empathy, and in fact spread happiness. So that's what I think I have learned over the years, and I feel that I'm an okay kind of salesman today, and a sales manager too.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex, for sharing. So now, here's one thing that, each time you hear somebody else's story, you also have some takeaways. So, I mean, my takeaway is that, most of the time in these forums or in these meetings, people are talking about how good I am, what I did, how I arrived there, how I reached there. But the real lessons are to be learned from failures. Like you mentioned, you were not a salesperson, but you did sales. You were an engineer. How we learn from it, how we arise from it is what is most important. And lessons don't have to come from the top. Lessons don't have to come from the bosses. The lessons are from anywhere and everywhere around you. It can be from, your peon in the office. It could be from, and spread happiness, like you said, right? Being a differentiator doesn't mean that you well, in business, you have to compete, but you have to be able to share your personal learnings, your personal journeys, and spread that happiness. And together, I think there can be a lot that can be accomplished. So with that, I'll just, in the interest of time, move to my takeaways. And then if we have time, we can definitely take more questions. So I'll just share my screen again. So yeah, so we've just applied these lessons to our life, and thank you for contributing to that. I'm not sure there are not one, but innumerable stories that come to your mind, and those who were silent are also thinking of many stories that they can relate to. Now, what I would, my free screen is frozen, I believe, Sama. Okay, so the lessons are unlimited. There's not one, but there are many, many lessons, and we can just keep going on and on about it. I'm happy to share this list with Osama, but the point is not to look at a list, but the point is to really go within and see what am I learning every moment. So my personal story is I can or I can't. And I think one of you in the groups had a very similar, sharing. I had to make a choice. And as we grow in our careers, we have to make these choices even more frequently because our careers are progressing, our personal lives are becoming more demanding. So the background is that as I had completed one of the most prestigious program at GE, and this was Jack Welch's favorite program called OMLP, Operations Management Leadership Program, where you have to, where the moment you started getting comfortable in an assignment, you're actually taken out of it and you're pushed to a different geography, a different location. You're pushed to a different business altogether. And that's what was happening to me. After I graduated from OMLP, I was a biomedical instrumentation graduate. So healthcare was a very comfortable zone for me. I was working in GE Healthcare. I'd already started saving, business some dollars through, simplifying processes, a couple of $1 million through just pure supply chain, standardization efforts. So I was back in Milwaukee in this GE Healthcare job in United States. And then I was asked to move to a commercial finance business in Connecticut, in New York. So this business was into asset-based and cash flow lending, securitization, project financing, junior secured second lien, equity capital, interest management. Believe you me, these terms were also alien to me at that time. I was like, what is securitization when I was asked to take this job? I knew nothing about this business, but not accepting the role was not an option for me. So I joined the business. I realized we had an amazing set of salespeople, but still very unhappy clients. And unhappy clients because there were operational challenges. Customers would not get their loan amounts in time. There were accuracy challenges. And even so that sometimes customers would get not one, but two checks. And they should have been delighted, but they were not delighted because there were so many errors in the way things were happening. And I realized that I was asked to come join this business because my strength was operations and processes. I was an operations management leadership program graduate. So therefore I was put there. I was thrown amongst a peer group, which were 10 or 20 years senior to me. And they had all MBA finance degrees. And when I was on my day one, when I was introduced by my COO, my peers looked at our CEO and thought that he's gone crazy. He's gotten somebody on board who has no background, no proven track record, doesn't even understand the basic finance instruments. So very quickly, I realized that when you have to join a new business, the only way that I thought was going to help me is, number one, asking a lot of questions. So I dedicated my first 2 weeks to interviewing peer group. I asked them all the 4 W's and 1 why. Who, what, when, where, how, why. Just so many questions that I asked to assimilate myself with, what was going on and how do I best contribute. So, and then I started to leverage what I was good at. I was good at process. I was good at operational training. I created some allies in the process. In order to do that, I actually decided that I'm going to have a lunch with somebody different in the team each day. So every day I would ask, can you join me for lunch? And started eating with a new member of the team. Started to get to know them personally and slowly started to build a rapport with them where, if they had an idea, they would actually come. Sorry, the slide got flipped. They would actually come and walk up to me and started sharing their views. The third thing, other than the first 2 that I mentioned, was I realized that more than this, I also needed domain knowledge. I wasn't a finance person, and it could only take me so far if I knew processes, if I had made some good supporters of me in the organization. But I realized I needed an MBA degree. My biomedical instrumentation degree was not going to be enough. So I decided to apply for an MBA, and I wanted to do it from an Ivy League university. This job was in Connecticut in United States. So I applied for NYU Stern. It wasn't too far. It was just within like 1.5 hour distance from where I was in Connecticut. And thankfully, the business at that time, GE agreed to sponsor me. They said, we'll pay for your MBA. So I applied. A year later, I got a call from NYU saying there was some administrative glitch because of which the decision got delayed and I was on wait list. They wanted to get my documentation degree from India and the India university and the US university. They couldn't, connect in time. So anyways, I was asked to join for the upcoming session, which was 6 months from then. By then, my personal front situation absolutely completely changed. It was 2008 when Lehman Brothers fiasco happened. My husband was working for Lehman Brothers. He lost his job. He had to move back to India. GE's commercial finance business, where I had joined, they were downsizing, and I was asked to move to transportation business. Not only did I have to change the business, but I had to move out of New York. So I moved to Erie, Pennsylvania. And by this time, I had a 6-month-old baby. In a place called Erie, Pennsylvania, I did not know anybody. I had a 6-month-old baby. Husband had moved to India, and I didn't know anybody personally. And of those of you who've traveled to US, you know that getting domestic help there is next to impossible. So while for some, this choice could have been easy and clear, that, I can't do this MBA right now, but for me, it wasn't a clear choice. It was a very tough choice. I did not want to drop my MBA. So I accepted the admission. I packed my bags, relocated to Erie, Pennsylvania with my son. So I decided to focus on one day at a time. So as I moved there, I found an amazing daycare for my son. Over a period of time, my schedule got set in stone, like every minute was set in stone, where my days would start to get super efficient. I would drop my son to daycare at 7 a.m., reach work at 8 a.m., keep my days efficient in a manner that I could get done, get out by 5 o'clock. And then I had to hard stop and go pick up my son. And for those of you who have been in the United States, the daycares there, they actually submit your child in a police station if you're not there in time to pick up your kid in time. So that was the story. When I would go home with my son, I would spend 2 hours of good quality time with him, and put him in bed sharp at 8 o'clock. And after 8 o'clock is when my MBA studying would start. So from over a period of time, all my college mates, everybody knew that we had to do group assignments. We had a ton of homework in any MBA in US, as you would know. And from 8 o'clock till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock would be my study time. And they all started aligning to my schedule where they would do calls in the night versus during the day. And this is how I got homework done. Come Friday evening, I had to take a flight from Erie, Pennsylvania to New York, where the classes would happen on the weekend. I would pick up my son from the daycare, go straight to the airport. In a few months, the entire airport staff got to know me because I was a frequent Friday traveler. And a mother and baby traveling every Friday had become, Erie being a small airport, pretty much every staff, every security, every person on the plane knew us. Now, I shared the story in detail, but I do want to share what it led to. It got me promoted as a director of the BPO for the entire GE business. One. And second, I was moved to India. GE actually moved me to India because they knew that this was the situation. They promoted me with a higher salary. And something that many people don't get that easily, which is I got an expat nanny to come with me, which is a nanny who was a child psychologist, who had an undergrad BA degree, was very well spoken in English, because my child was speaking English as he was born in US. He was not speaking much of Hindi. And more importantly, it's not the promotion that I got and moving to India, but what was more important and what stays with me till date is not so much about, what I learned. I finished my MBA degree. I learned finance. I learned organization development. I learned strategy. But what stays with me is how, one could really, the time could expand and time could contract based on what you really want to do. Because I wanted to do this, I was able to fit in, and your schedule can be managed based on what you really want to do. As I was moving back from US to India to take up this job, my farewell title that they gave to me was a Powerpuff Girl. So this is a character from a famous American TV animation series, where there's a cartoon character of a very short, small height, but a very powerful girl who would want to change the world. So they named me Powerpuff Girl. There's just so much that when I look back, to thank for that over a period of time, it's just that, when one desires, the universe converse. I had neighbors who were so super helpful. I found colleagues who were super helpful. I look back and I learned so much that, the can-do attitude. So a lot of times when you are in this crossroad of whether I can do or I can't do, and the choice is not very clear to you, just follow your heart, and everything else aligns. So that's my story about I can or I can't, where I had to go through this crossroad. Another story that I do want to share, the second story, and I'll share only 3 because I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you all are full of your own personal journeys as well. My second story is practice. This is the time when I had moved to India. After moving to India, I picked up running as a hobby. I was running well, and I decided to run competitively. I joined a running group, started preparing for a marathon in Gurgaon called MCM. It's a very famous marathon of about 21 kilometers. My coach saw the dedication with which I was running, and he decided to pace me for this run. He said, I will be the one who will be pacing you. As the run started very strong. And this is the run where I'm on the left. It was, we started strong. We were in the last 5 kilometer stretch. And this is when my body had started to feel weak. But my heart wanted to see me keep going. My coach could see that I was losing balance. But I told him, no, I'll do it. I can do it. I kept going, and he can continue to pace me. At 17th kilometer, I had started to see images blur in front of me. And I sat down on the pavement to really think about whether I can or I cannot do this run. As I sat down, the tears started flowing my eyes because I saw failure. I wanted to reach the finish line, but I realized I couldn't. My body was not ready. However, my coach realized that this was worse. I was in a bad shape, and he could see that this is going to be an emergency situation soon. So he hailed a car, he put me in the car, and he took me to the hospital. As I reached the hospital, I fainted and I was put on a stretcher. As it turns out, my salt level had gone down, my blood pressure completely dropped, my blood sugar was at its very low, and I was put on drips. The entire day of staying in the hospital, I had no clue what was going on. In a few hours, it almost felt like I had come back to life. So around 5 o'clock, my eyes opened and I saw my coach was standing, bunch of my other co-runners, friends who used to run with me, they were all eagerly waiting for me to recover. And I opened my eyes and I saw them smiling. So I got discharged in the evening the same day, came home, but the feeling of deep disappointment and deep failure stayed with me. I didn't even know how to face so many of these co-runners who were actually thinking that I had become some trophy and I was going to win, and they were waiting to know what my timing was, etc. It took me a couple of days to recover, not body-wise, but it took me some time to recover emotionally. I was not able to come to terms with the fact that I could not even see the finish line. Forget about the pace. So my reflection was that while my heart was ready, my mind was there, but my body wasn't ready. And I spoke to my coach. He realized that I needed body training. So he kept me, he realized he realized I needed more strength training. And I did have the dedication, I did have the potential. So he started one-on-one coaching for me in gym, where he needed to make sure that my body feels strong and I'm able to get to a higher endurance, higher stamina, and a higher pace. And we started rigorous practice. It was a 1 year long of practice, and at about 4:30, practicing running. As the running became regular, I went through full year of regular coaches, and my coach told me I was now ready for a sub-2. Sub-2 is a very prestigious thing for the running people, because if you can finish 21 kilometers under 2 hours, it's a milestone. So I finished my sub-2 in a night marathon called Starry Night Marathon of Gurgaon. Post that, I did multiple runs. I did a Delhi Airtel Marathon. I was the first in the women 5K run in Gurgaon. I went on to run Bombay marathons, and my biggest learning, and I'm sharing this such a long story of mine, was my biggest learning in this was your body is ready to do anything. It's the heart and the mind that keeps playing tricks. So just like it happened with Jonathan, the seagull, his heart was there in running, but his mind was playing tricks. Your parents, they're not happy. You boycott from the society. You're not a falcon. You don't have those kind of wings. So it's the mind which is always playing tricks. But your body is actually ready to do anything that you want it to really, really do. So that was my learning. I know we're on the hour, so I'll finish my third story very quickly. My third story is about passion. It's about the energy, the power. Passion is actually an energy. It's a power from within, and it's a purpose of life. So as I had moved to India as a BPO director, I had decided to move to Genpact. So Genpact was a vendor to GE. GE was a client. Boy, it was an ego dampener from me, because suddenly after working in GE and being in such a blue-eyed person of GE, I had moved to Genpact, where I was a service provider to GE. However, I was in an executive position, very senior. I was band 1 of Genpact, which is considered pretty good in a corporate hierarchy sense. It was getting great salary, bonuses like never before. But there came a moment when I realized that, is this where I want? Where do I see from here? What do I want? Where do I want to go from here? As a BPO director, I was also setting up, in my previous job before Genpact, I had set up a center in Saudi, which was a women-only center for 3,000 women. And it was amazing experience working with these women, because it's a very conservative society, Saudi Arabia, where women don't work. And one day I got a leave request from one of the women saying, my co-sister is giving a birth. So basically my husband's second wife is giving a birth, and that's why I need time off. And I was thinking, what is this? And I learned so much that, from the women, from the ladies there, how differently oriented they were from a social community standpoint, and how liberating it was for them to come to work and have their own freedom and have their own paycheck was very liberating for them. So as I was working in Genpact, this higher salary, great promotion, great, bonuses, I realized that, this is not what was giving me joy. What was giving me joy was that Saudi job. And I decided to quit. 3 months, I did nothing. I had a reset moment, and everybody was telling me at such senior level, you're quitting and doing nothing. But that was a soul-searching moment for me. I went back and really searched my soul as to what is it that I really enjoy the most. And I realized that it is the joy of serving communities. It's the joy of giving back. So I joined NASSCOM, where I'm working very closely with the government to really transform the country towards digital skilling. Everybody needs digital skilling. And really quickly, I started conducting large-scale career fairs. I started getting invited to multiple forums to motivate other women, to motivate people who were, either stuck in their careers, who wanted to make a livelihood. I started doing career fairs, which had about 30,000 people coming in, getting jobs, applying for jobs through these digital skilling programs. We conducted PWD career fair, which is people for physically disabled. And oh my God, I mean, it gives me goosebumps till today. This picture that you see on the left, the most crowded picture, is actually when a PWD candidate comes for an interview. It is not a person, it is the entire family who comes for the interview, because they have to be taken on a wheelchair for the interview, etc. And the joy that you see on the entire family's face when they get a job is just immense. So I'm currently working with NASSCOM, and it's something which I feel that the sense of reward, the sense of giving back is so immense that the paycheck doesn't matter right now at this age, at this point in my career. So when the passion meets profession, I think the world is unlimited. That's what I want to leave you with. I found this passion much late in my journey, but for those of you who can afford it from a livelihood standpoint, for those of you who has the opportunity, think about what is the passion. And if the passion can become a profession, the world, believe you me, is unlimited. So can I take 1 extra minute, Osama?
Please take as many as you want, just listening to you.
Okay. So I just want to take 1 extra minute because I opened this session with this question about, was Jonathan born different? So I'd like to hear from 1 or 2 people on the group what their view is.
Sure. We all can have raise.
So
of
first two hand raises quickly.
Kanchan has raised his hand. So Kanchan, go ahead.
No, actually, Jonathan was not born as a leader. He acted as a differently than others.
Yes. Any other?
Second one.
Okay. So we'll go. So was Jonathan born with a skill to fly? No, he wasn't. The best way to predict your future is to create it. So that's the last remark that I leave you with is, you create your future. You become what you want to become with practice, with passion, with the right amount of skilling yourself. You can be where you want to be. So that's what I want to leave you with. So Kanchan, you're right. Jonathan wasn't born like that. He practiced to be like that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jyotsna, for sharing all the insights. Very inspiring. I must say that you had many reasons to give up, and you just hold on to it. And today, you're bringing change to such a section of society that has never seen liberation. I've lived in Middle East for a good 18 years of my life. I've lived in Oman, a much liberated country, for good 18 years of my life, but I know how fulfilling it would be for you to to be that change. And thank you so much for sharing that insightful story, and a very inspiring one at that. Nobody can complain that we are running short of time. I think it's all about priority. And thank you. I was deeply moved.
Thank you, Osama. Thank you for the opportunity. And this is a great group because you've invested in your learning. So that's step number 1, like somebody said on the group, is already taken care of for you. So good luck to you all, and wish you wonderful journey, and happy to be of any support to any of you at any point you want.
Thank you, Jyotsna. Nice to have you. Take care. Yeah.
Thank you.